Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters, where we just saw Karmine Corp take Game 3 of the series, going 2-1 up against LDLC. And I think it is a surprise, but a welcome one, perhaps, for you, Trouble.
Okay, it's not a surprise. It is very welcome, obviously, for any LFL fan as well, and any K-Corp fan, but I don't think it's a surprise to me at all. Okay. I feel like back-to-back spring 2021, summer 2021, all the opponents, any opponent, even the NLC that went to the finals versus K-Corp, they somehow did not play their A-game. I feel like K-Corp have the magic to make their opponents weaker when they play against them in the finals.
You just have to mind control them.
Exactly.
That's how you win. You just mind control your opponents to play worse than they usually do.
I mean, well, it's working, because LDLC, I've been really unimpressed with these, to be honest. Like, one of the big things that was my talking points coming into this was, how good they were when it came to, decision-making on the map, how they wanted to cross-map, how they wanted to set up side lanes, how they wanted to play the mid-lane game, and it just feels like all of this is completely fallen apart. Like, they've completely dropped on how good they were looking for cross-maps. I don't feel like their objective control is very good. And even then, when we came into this game, this is a draft that needs to get up and rolling early. You need to be posted up on objectives when you're playing a poke composition like this, but it never really felt like they were in control enough to actually go for that. Even, they put like 4 ganks into top lane to Cabochard, and Cabochard got the top lane tower first. I don't understand how that happened.
Well, let's have a look at some of those ganks that they did put into Cabochard on the top side, because, yeah, he was miles behind. Like, this guy was left on an island by his team, and that island was rapidly sinking. Climate change was very real for Cabochard in the top lane.
And again, like, this is LDLC. It feels like trying to try a new style out, right? Ragner on a carry where they're like, okay, we're going to put resources into you, try and play towards you. Like, you can see how often LDLC were up here, but still the tower ends up going over in favor of Cabochard. He ends up actually getting a solo kill in this scenario. It just felt like LDLC weren't really sure how they wanted to try and play through this style. And while this is all going on, Karmine Corp are just like, well, we don't really care. As long as you don't get top lane turret and you're not able to open up the map, we just get posted to objectives first, and we're going to win the team fight regardless.
So here's the thing, right? Cabo gets so much attention to him, but he's absorbed all the pressure. He didn't lose much in CS, he didn't lose much in experience, and if you looked at the other side of the map, Rekkles kept continuously pushing wave after wave after wave after wave underneath the tower, and I feel like Rekkles has also been the unsung hero of the series. We saw him in the semi-finals. He was being choked down, he was being deprived of CS, he was being deprived of experience. Now that they have managed to very securely allow him to be on a weak side, if you will, even on the misfortune, because he doesn't necessarily get much resources, he takes them himself.
Yeah, he's definitely in a much better position in these games than he has been in the last couple of weeks for Karmine Corp. I want to have a look at how the team compositions bashed heads in the mid game, though, because the first time we saw a fight around the Dragon where it's 5v5, it really felt like LDLC played the fight well to their composition's goal.
This is how LDLC should be trying to play fights, right? Like, Yike going in aggressive, but drawing out a lot of the engage tools, and you can see them consistently playing at range. They're looking for poke with Ragner, they're looking for Eika to get this quick little bit of damage off before he retreats. An Exakick, his only problem here, or only opportunity here, is to open up an ult, open up with the deadly flourish. Like, that's all that's needed from him. And you can see they actually succeed. Like, Karmine Corp take a whole load of damage. They're not really able to get their engage that they want off because 113's ult was already drawn out. And this is where LDLC successfully win the duel and get the dragon. But the problem then comes when you can see other fights where they're not able to get posted onto the objective. And this is why this is a composition needs to get going early, but LDLC never actually got the attention that they needed to get that ball rolling.
And I also don't think I even mind them going towards the latter stages. You know, you have the Yuumi, your Zinza will be a giga tank, you've got the flash on him as well. If you manage to stick onto a target, that target should technically die, because everyone was pretty squishy from the side of Karmine Corp. But they kept getting uncharacteristically caught all over the map. And Ni has been, I don't know, the sense of the series for this entire best of.
Yeah, LDLC just struggling to do what they would usually do. Have a look at a fight where they were caught. Yike in that top side river. He thought he could do something here, and you can see because he has DOS on his shoulders, he thinks he's a little bit stronger than he actually is.
He has DOS on his shoulders, and if you look on the top side of the map, he also has Eika wrapping around after pushing in the wave. The problem is your mid lane wave is not there, so your Jace cannot follow up, and you ended up running into 5 members of Karmine Corp and gifting away the Baron as well. Once the smite holder is down, that objective is free.
Yeah, and you're starting to see the issues that, like, you're going to have with this in Yuumi combos. Look, if you try to go into these fights, Rakan ult, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Jarvan ult, not really getting anywhere. Oh, well, you know, maybe we just throw an Azir in there just to make your life miserable as well. Like everything, even the Gnar ult as well. There's like nothing that you can do there. There always seems to be an answer for trying to get this in controlled, keep them in check. And that's why looking at this was like you had to play the range game. And unfortunately, with the way that LDLC were playing, where they are getting caught out, where they're not actually playing to set up objective vision correctly, they're just falling apart.
They're definitely struggling. We'll have another look at a fight later on in the game where Karmine Corp were able to clean up LDLC. And the thing with this is, like, we've just seen LDLC lose the fight off towards the top side. They've lost the Baron, and then they look to try and make things happen towards the bottom side, but they are flanked, outmanned, and they can never find that range that they're looking for.
And look at the control. Like, where's your vision there, right? You literally have Karmine Corp walk through River and just like, cool, we're just going to go and kill you. Like, there's no vision control. They're overextended. And this was something that we started to see pretty consistently. And I actually thought at the start of this game, when we're looking about the 15-minute mark, you know, first dragon, going to LDLC, they can look to cross-map. They're going to be in a good spot where they can actually trade objectives for the dragons that realistic Karmine Corp are trying to force as win conditions. But you don't ever actually see that become an issue because LDLC just end up getting caught out so frequently.
And again, if you look at the graph, it's the triple carry threat coming in from Karmine Corp. It is the way that they won the back-to-back Amazon European Masters last year, and now they're bringing it back, and it seems to be working for them. LDLC are trying to match it, but they're just not good enough.
And for Karmine Corp, as you say, they are on their verge of a third title in a row, something we've never seen before in the history of the Amazon EU Masters, something we rarely see at the LEC level. You know, Cheetah and Fnatic have done it. No one else has been able to get to that 3 in a row. And every player on the team steps up when it really matters, especially in this finals. You can look across everyone and say, they've had a good game, they've had a good series. The question is, like, if you're LDLC, how on earth do you match up against a team that seems to be mind controlling you?
Well, this is where I actually started to go, well, do you have an answer? Because it felt like game one, we actually did. You played the tank top, you played for this big team fight, you're able to set up the game in the scenario that you want. But now we're not really getting that anymore. Instead, we're getting them trying to make these complicated plays with like, oh, we've got range, let's try and play this style. We've got a ton of other options that we're trying to work out. We're playing this early game to mid-game composition that needs to get the ball rolling early. And Karmine Corp are kind of like, okay, well, we'll just take scaling. SAKEN has been a monster in things like the Azir. You've got Cabochard, who's been incredible in team fights. It just feels like they're perfectly happily playing these 5v5 fights, and LDLC aren't actually drafting for that.
I'm actually kind of upset with the way LDLC are drafting for the bot lane because they have allowed Rekkles way too much space. Is he actually behind me?
SAKEN now. It's switched.
All right, fair enough.
They've also allowed SAKEN too much space. There's just too much space on the map.
They've allowed both
too
the
much
guys
space everywhere, guys.
But I feel like get DOS off of that Yuumi, put him back on a playmaker, and most importantly, take Hantera off of that Rakan, because he hasn't looked as comfortable on any other support. And with that Rakan, we actually commended him on how well he can play, how well he can roam the map, how well he can cover for his teammates. And he continues on the same tradition. Get him off of the Rakan or take it yourself if you're blue side.
I do think you need to control SAKEN as well, though. This man has been insane. Like, we talked about him coming into today. He's been picking up things like the Azir, the Victor, these kind of things where it's like, oh, we're actually just going to go play for these late-game fights. That seems to be the protocol here for SAKEN, and you need to remove it.
You definitely do. We're going to get on into draft for Game 4 of the series. Karmine Corp, 1 game away from a three-peat, from the back-to-back-to-back. And let's jump into it. LDLC elected the blue side. Karmine Corp are sitting on the red. LDLC, of course, 13 games undefeated until Game 2 of this series. And now, I mean, all it takes is 3 losses for you to lose a title.
Yeah, we kind of called it the unlucky number 13. Eh? This is going real well.
I feel like at this point, I'm so happy to see LDLC on blue side, because it means they're going to go for the front to back. You don't necessarily have the counter picks. You know you're going to give R5 to Cabochard, so I'm expecting maybe the Sion, the Gnar, the Ornn to come through for Ragner on the top side of the map. Now the question is, do you ban the Rakan? Because yes, the misfortune was a problem on Rekkles. He's done really well onto the champion, but I feel like also Hantera has had one of his best games and series onto the Rakan back-to-back. The previous series versus Vitality B, and here so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the biggest thing here is like seeing the Xerath coming through on the blue side. Really surprised to see that, because you kind of think, oh, well, chances are you've got first pick Xayah here that can do a really good response to that. That seems to be the best way to try and like work through that scenario, is like, hey, we'll go for the Xayah pick, but not going to be the case. So we're getting the Jarvan taken off the board, the Ahri gone as well. Like, there's so much here where you're still kind of looking, going, hey, we got LeBlanc open. That's the best option here, it feels like.
I agree with you there, and with the Jarvan being banned away, we'll see how LDLC wants to round out the first pick of their draft, and that first rotation, of course, very important to look towards your jungler. We often see mid lane in that first rotation alongside the AD carry as well. Karmine Corp still have one ban left. I wonder if they'll look to Volibear instead. They want to get rid of that top lane tank, and the Ornn is taken out of the pool. Ooh.
So this is the first time we've actually seen the Rise left open the entire time for LDLC. So I'm really curious to see if Karmine Corp are going to go towards that, or if they're just going to stick to what's the tried and tested method here for SAKEN, not only in this series, but in the previous series against Fatality B, which is going for more of those big damage dealers in the mid lane.
Volibear locked in, and Hantera yet again on the Rakan. I feel like this time DOS has to go on the offensive. He has to lock in something like a Leona, something like a Nautilus, and just completely punish the Rakan in lane, not allow him to roam.
I agree with you there. I also think, although we are on 12-6, something like a Poppy, something that you haven't seen much this series, something that could really upset the ability to engage, could work out well.
I'd actually love to see the Lee Sin, which is actually going to be taken. I think Lee Sin does really well here, because when you look at the AD carries that are left available, you're not having much mobility, right? Xayah's the only one that's really there. So you've got the threat if you want to try and go for some of these mid lane mages like the Victor and the, not so much the Azir, but definitely with the Victor, you can try and play towards that. You've also got the opportunity to take the LeBlanc here. You played through that crazy strong mid jungle. It just feels like that's your best way as LDLC to try and power through this, because it feels like the lack of mid jungle has really been hurting you in quite a bit of this.
This is so strong right here, and this is actually really clever from LDLC, because we talked about the fact that your blue side, you will want to play the front to back. And I think Ragner has been so incredibly brilliant on tanks like the Ornn and like the Sion. So shove him on the top side, on something that he can't die, and then play your game. I'm assuming the Lee Sin being locked in here needs a pretty aggressive mid lane duo as well. Having SAKEN onto the Azir, once he uses his E pre-level 6 where he doesn't have the ultimate, Yike can actually punish.
I'm going to say something, and I'm really sorry for everyone at home. I'd really like to see Eika and Corki. Actually going really well here.
Oh, it's an international tournament. Corki Azir has to exist.
Because I think you've got like, all right, forget about your mid jungle kind of combo there, but you've got like good poke, which works with the Xayah. You got great late game scaling, the opportunity to like separate team fights, like that actually offers a huge amount to LDLC. And look, I know that the package changes kind of put him off a cliff, but against something like a Corki, against the Azir, Corki actually works really well.
I agree with you, and I think Karmine Corp here are pushing themselves towards AD carry into top lane pick, you know, with no AD carries actually being banned away. I wonder if Karmine Corp decide to play something like the Ezreal. It's safe against the Lee Sin. You said the lack of mobility on AD carries can often be punished, but Ezreal alongside Azir gives you a lot of late game damage. You now have counter pick for top laners last, even though you've already seen the Sion. It gives you that option to have a little bit more safety in your top lane pick.
I'm not a big fan of the Rise here if we're going to go for it. I just feel like you get shoved in by the Azir too much and you just don't get the opportunity to roam. We even saw SAKEN picking into this. Okay. So not a Corki, but still that, you know, long range mage.
Okay. Yeah. That's a surprise. I'll be honest. I mean, Xerath, I believe, if I remember correctly, and this is from the annals of my brain, Eika used to play a lot of Xerath in solo queue. Like a few years ago now, before he went over to Immortals, I remember him being an incredibly good Xerath player. What will they team it up with? Do you need more engage? Something like the Alistar, the Sion's there as well. Those you can have Sion as initial and then Leona as follow-up.
I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of Leona here, because Nautilus is literally the easiest point click I'm going to knock up at anyone, even if they run away, such as Ezreal and Azir, right? But DOS is going towards comfort. He loves playing that. Leona loves roaming around with Yike onto the Lee Sin. Now, I'm wondering what is Xerath going to provide here, because he has endless prior in the mid lane by shoving in the waves, but then you can also assist with your long-range ultimate if there is a fight into river without you having to walk into river.
Yeah. It does definitely feel like LDLC, though we're going back to basics. Like, look, we are going to beat you late game. We are just going to take these late game fights with the Xerath, with the mega tank on the top side, and that's how we're going to start to close out this game. And it feels like, at least for Karmine Corp, you do have some scaling options in the Azir, but certainly the spike is more in the mid game, so it's on you to try and get these early objectives set up so then Xerath hasn't become that mega late game mage alongside this mega tank of the Sion, and you can actually have a chance to fight against it.
And an issue for Karmine Corp, because this draft actually looks a lot like their Game 1 draft. An issue in Game 1 was they didn't have the damage to get through a Sion. Like, who was ever going to work through it? Now, you have the Azir, you have a little bit more damage over time in these team fights. Can they find enough damage to kill off Ragner?
Well, that's a big question for me, but also I think the Azir can at least answer that to a certain extent, but the big problem for Azir is no real setup for the volley. You're not really going to be ganking mid. You're looking bot side, it's an Ezreal. You don't really want to be ganking for an Ezreal. So now you're only going to be in on Cabochard on the top side, and that is kind of been the case that we saw in game number 1, where LDLC were able to take it because the winning mid, winning bot, and then they play for late game team fights. So this is feeling to me a little bit like game 1.
Okay, is it Karmine Corp's title after this game? Trouble?
It could very well be,
that's
but I'm
not what
going
I
to
asked.
side with...
Is it?
No.
No?
No.
No, okay, we're going to game 5 according to our analysts here. Casters, do or die for LDLC. If they lose, they are out, and Karmine Corp will claim their 3rd title in a row. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Medic, of course, Dagda and Trouble. Very curious draft, but we did a little digging. We did a little bit of digging. We have seen...
Got the spades and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the little, what are the trolls? Little things you pick up the little small plants with. But the last time we saw Eika play this is Xerath into an Azir was actually in the regular season of LFL 2022 this spring.
Did they win?
No, they did not. The Xerath was not able to overcome the Azir, and this is just coming down to, honestly, who's this man in the mid lane for the side of Karmine Corp, who's just been such a monster. SAKEN has been huge so far this series.
Well, the question is whether he's going to have the same age as C in this game, because you get to the point where this Xerath, if it hasn't been shut down, you get hit by like 1 Q, an ult when you stood on the ward which has been placed far up in lane. You can actually just be forced out of a lot of fights. I wonder whether LDLC, because it is one of their specialties in defending weaker mid lane laning champions like the Xerath, whether they found a bit of an answer here to the Azir.
That's the thing, and at the same, I have so many things I want to dive into from this matchup specifically, from Yike as well on the Lee Sin, but I think I will start on Yike as well. And to start there, I'll have to start with SAKEN against Vitality B. He was on the Azir. Problem was, he was facing Skeen's Lee Sin there, and Skeen's Lee Sin made SAKEN's life miserable. SAKEN never got to play a fight. He was always insect into the enemy team, and he was just shut down immediately. Now, if Yike can perform those same wonders, a lot of the damage is going to be gone in terms of taking care of this Sion.
And I know there were some question marks about maybe why is it the Leona over the Nautilus. If you think of the Xerath from the mid lane, kind of like the Ziggs Leona from bot lane that we saw a lot, maybe not as much this split, but in a couple of seasons past, you can just see if that Solar Flare ever hits someone important on the side of Karmine Corp, that's going to be Ride of the Arcane flying through, and that's a really powerful combo for LDLC to play around as well. So Karmine Corp have a lot of things to be worried about come mid-game.
Doesn't even have to be someone important. You can pretty much hit anyone outside of the Gnar, right? They'll just blow
Who's not
up.
important to you, Goldborg? Who's not important?
Now that's putting me on the
Yeah, I was
spot.
going to say, you're setting them up to fail here now. Come on. Everyone is important equally in terms of the eyes of Goldberg. In terms of Big G,
Apart from
he
Rakan.
loves all.
Nah.
Big
Mr.
G
Goldberg
loves
thinks
all.
all the LSC teams are just as good as each other.
Some more equal than others. But as we come now into this game, we did see an early ward go down onto the top side there for Karmine Corp. They know where Yike is going to be on this Lee Sin. And I want to try and, see what you guys think as well. We talked, or excuse me, Dagda talked about it as well. Where are you going to try and focus here as 1-1-3? Because there's not really a huge amount of lanes that are going to be giving you that same kind of oomph in that 1-3 kind of gank mark.
You are not really being set up for by your lanes. You have to set up for your lanes. So that really means you're effectively looking to who's over pushing. It's not any one lane. It's whether the vision allows for it, which means that, of course, LDLC, they can feel somewhat safe in all lanes, but they need to make sure the wards are there. And currently, there are wards from Karmine Corp on both sides of the map, which will help 1-1-3 choose his moment.
It's also why I think that 1-1-3, he's just going to be full-king, right? Because Cabochard on the top side currently has the wave push, and in the mid lane as well. SAKEN just crashed it early as well. The only lane you really have to be aware of is that bot side, but even your bot lane, they have so much mobility. You have an Ezreal, you have a Rakan. If they get caught, it's really on them, and it shouldn't happen. So I think 1-1-3 just needs to stabilize, find that level 6, and then when you hit the level 6, that's where you can start being proactive. And for me specifically, I think it's about punishing Eika in the mid lane. If Xerath has no flash, yes, he has long range, but there's nothing stopping Karmine Corp from diving him.
But, every time LDLC has had there's an opening in the mid lane, it feels like Yike's been there, it's felt like DOS has been there. You know what? DOS not being on the Yuumi adds that onto the table again. This has been one of the strengths of LDLC. If they have a champion which is exploitable in mid lane, they cover it incredibly well.
Come back into this game again. Like you said, we talked a lot about kind of the exploits, the opportunities from both of these sides. Exakick on the Xayah is going to be pretty big, but someone Let's see what they want to go for. Yike actually did a very creative path there, skipped his wolves, didn't get spotted out by that ward on the Raptors. They didn't know exactly where he was. There was maybe an opportunity cost there, but wasn't able to find anything.
That's the thing, right? It was a little, it's not per se high risk, high reward skipping your wolf camps, right? But it's a scenario where that wolf camp would now be one level lesser than the level camps of 113. And the more you go through this matchup, the faster these resets starts coming through, well, the faster you accelerate your own level 6. 113 already level 4. Yike is only going to be hitting that potentially after this Crocs, if not when he goes back and take care of that wolf camp. So in terms of that win condition we set up of hitting level 6 on 113, at least in the early game, it's favoring K-Corp a little bit.
Doss has actually faked his recall there, sat in that brush. Might he actually be able to catch Karmine Corp's bot lane in lane? Have to see how that one works out.
Level 3.
Yeah, level 3, but there was a ward down. You can see that it was already auto-attacked, as we can go in for it now. Rekkles will take Doss for a little bit of a ride, and they will get a fair chunk of damage onto him. The W does mitigate a lot of that, as you can see Yike just sitting off onto the bot side, making sure nothing happens while this wave crashes.
That's one of those bot lane kind of those cheeky tricks, which both these lanes have shown throughout the entire tournament. Less against each other in this series. They've both been holding each other to account. You can see again the odd ways you can get leads in 2v2s.
Something super important just happened there. They spotted Yike just before he got the recall. That meant they know they can get aggressive, they know they can push up, but they need to be careful. Rekkles, he's low on mana. One center blade connected on the right target could mean disaster. And I think that's why they're recalling here. But Doss, he spotted this.
He has spotted this, Rekkles. Thinking that something was up as Doss just walked forward a little bit too aggressively, and they kind of backed themselves away. But this bot lane has been pivotal, but at the same time, not the biggest point of action for either of these sides.
And one of the reasons why you can see these trades kind of being kind of like tentatively gone about is actually, of course, you look at these summoners, not summoners, you look at the keystones. There's an area on the Xayah, you know that's going to add a lot of things in early. It's actually pressed the attack on the Ezreal. We're seeing this a little bit more and more over the last couple of patches, and second dodging like that. But just having the ability to walk in, auto reset with that Q gives you quite a lot of early burst on that Ezreal.
Let's play it to the marginals here. SAKEN so close to hitting level 6. I wondered if they were looking forward to surprise Eika as soon as he did hit it, but 113 opted in to not stay around. SAKEN, he has hit it now. He can push in the mid lane wave, can have the support in mid lane go up with 113 afterwards to secure this Drake, but he's been a little careful. They're split, and so is Doss.
Gonna go look for this one here. Hantera got jumped on here, but it's a double knock-on. But SAKEN gets them swept underneath the rug, out of sight, out of mind. They don't pick up any kills, and actually right now it's a little bit separated.
No!
Doss gets out with his life. That was beautiful. It secures the dragon, but they didn't get everything they wanted.
That's just straight up daylight robbery. What have we just witnessed?
I mean, when you see two people walk into the river like that, you say, oh, playing around the margins, playing around the level 6s, that is it. Shuffle should have been a huge breaking point for Karmine Corp in this game. They don't quite get away with it. LDLC have to count themselves incredibly lucky there.
Well, yeah, what a bullet they just dodged. You know, those two kills goes over to the side of K-Corp. They just accelerate what we wanted to come out from, and then they start skirmishing in the opponent's jungle, and that's when you first will find yourself in a disastrous situation. Yike still haven't hit level 6 either on the Lee Sin. Exakick!
Oh, great sidestep.
That was millimeters away. He gets the root down, he heals, he flashes, but he shall not escape. First blood going over to Karmine Corp.
And what is happening? We're suddenly playing for the bot side this time around with Volibear, 113 being the better one at facilitating it.
And normally when I look at this jungle matchup, I think, okay, Volibear, great in the 2v1s, in solo lanes, level 3, wow, this guy's really hard to beat. But in the bot lane with 3v3s, normally it's Lee Sin doing this.
113 hasn't left, though. They get the Ignite down onto Rekkles. Hantera is low. Can they get enough damage down? Yike! Almost doing a bit of a yikes right there, and now he's kind of left Doss to say, I'm so sorry, buddy, we can't make it work.
LDLC, they find their bread and butter by being aggressive, but this time around, they're really just overstepping their line, and it's costing them a lot in this early game.
And it feels like it's just miscalculations. I know the Lee Sin typically does do well in, again, 3v3 situations towards that bot side, but Karmine Corp, it's 113. It's Hantera, it's Rekkles who are getting the better of this bot side of the map. And LDLC, I don't really think their strength has been playing around the bot side of the map. They choose to play towards that area. They're not quite hitting on all cylinders yet.
But it's not really been either of these teams' strong side, really. So it's an adaptation that Karmine Corp comes through with when they know there's a Sion on the top side. They don't have to expend resources into the Gnar. You lead that matchup by themselves. Exakick in the beginning, though, what a stone cold killer not flashing. Unfortunately, it's just not enough, and 113 pushes to flash himself.
And after that, it's a little bit of miscalculation. You think, okay, no mana left on the Volibear if they are stuck around, but 113 doesn't actually channel the recall.
See a little bit on the live. There's a bit of a scuffle going on onto the Rift Heralds. This is just a very unfortunate overextension, like you guys mentioned, onto the LDLC. Jungler and support. Cabochard is going to lose his Mega, and this is an opportunity. DOS.
5v4.
Ooh, DOS nearly landing that Zenith Blade, almost getting himself set up. But now LDLC, they're thinking they're powerful enough, and they are. So Yike will pick up the Rift Herald. They get the objective despite everything going wrong.
But how unlike is it the way they do it? They put Exakick up there. They never do this. It's always about moving your pieces up towards the top side. Let Exakick have a favorable 1v1 in the bot side. This time around, though, that was not the story. So now, Rekkles, for the first time, will be the AD carry, getting resources for himself down here.
And we did see a couple of times where the AD carries were left in 1v1s, but you're right, it's the first time where Rekkles has been truly isolated from his lane opponents. And this has to now be a really high value Herald coming out of LDLC now. Now, this is something which we've not actually seen through this series. As you said, it is just a full swap. It's getting Exakick away from the Rakan. It's getting Cabochard put under turret. Of course, Sion very happy to wave clear under any kind of turret. He's one of the best lane swap champions in the game. But even with this, I mean, you start looking at that Herald, and I think, I wonder if you need to put that gold into someone like Xerath and just hope they can deal with the Azir and the Ezreal, because they're getting a lot of gold in this early game, starting to favor Karmine Corp.
Yeah, and even then, right, you pick this Xerath into the Azir to really just mitigate the damage coming through because you can outrange him. So far, they've not been able to play around it. Still 3 members on the top side. Eika from the mid lane moving up as well. We might just have 5 members up here. Ragner no teleport, though. So it will just be 4. 1 plate falls, but the rest of K-Corp is here to respond now.
Well, you can see that Cabochard on the other side of the map. He's built himself up a hull breaker, and he's isolated in a 1v1 at this point. He did a lot of work in the semi-finals against Vitality B. He was picking up hull breaker Renekton, hull breaker Sion, picked it up on the Gnar this time. And Karmine Corp, if they are going to be facing up against this Xerath, maybe this lessens the impact that that champion's going to have when that comes to the fray. 1-1-3.
Oh, this is fine. DOS and Exakick trying to go for a little bit of a cheeky back. They might have been able to get away with it. There wasn't full vision or any vision whatsoever as they go for it. But as you talk about, I love how you mentioned as well a little bit earlier there, Goldberg, SAKEN versus Eika, this mid lane matchup, because honestly, it's kind of gone a little bit under the wraps right up until the finals, because SAKEN, as you've seen probably from the previous 2 games, has been just a monster so far in this tournament. And the first in damage per minute, second in damage percentage. He's always getting himself ahead on lanes. This guy is showing up when it matters most.
And, you know, coming into the tournament, I would have hated to see SAKEN all the time on Azir, because I was like, you know, he's best when he's on facilitating champions like the Ryze and Tia, where he's excelling his pressure on the side lane. But the further we've gotten into the tournament, it's just nice to see him on a champion where he can just sit back in lane and just do his thing when he finally hit that late game.
Get yourself a mid laner that can do both.
Honestly.
This guy has been so valuable, and I do think last split, before the finals, I thought, okay, Cabochard's pretty much throughout this entire event made sure that he would be my MVP regardless of the results of the finals. I think for me, it was the decision between Yike and SAKEN, maybe Shijender as well. But I think actually given this finals, SAKEN is putting a very strong stake in for unofficial MVP of the tournament.
And on the other side of this, on the other side of this as well, we got to look at the matchup that he's going into, because it is Eika on the other side. And again, you know, this man has not been doing too badly himself. Nearly a 10.0 KDA. He's getting himself very close in terms of the damage per minute, but he just really hasn't made it stick so far this series.
Not this series. I do think that his team has been setting him up across the entire tournament for success. Again, we know the amount of attention and the organization that Yike and DOS have brought to the early game to make sure he gets into a point of power. But as you said, yeah, he's actually not been able to achieve nearly as much as he would have wanted to against his opposite number.
Rift Herald timing out in just about 10 seconds, so Yike, he needs to commit to lane. Someone else is just going to run out.
Yeah.
Will it be top lane? Mid lane has gotten priority now. He can move it up towards the top side.
It has to be top.
Already in a flank position. Let's see how this one plays out.
He's got to go for it now. Yep, he's going to have to drop it here as DOS. It's a little bit caught out, but again, it is a Leona, and Ike is in a perfect position over the wall. They do get the ultimate here from 113. They land the True Shot Barrage, and Shelly should fulfill her duties. We flash in onto DOS, but that's not really the target you want. They're going to go straight onto 113, who has got status, as does Hantera. They've got the right of the Arcane coming in off the back side of this one here. SAKEN once again finds his brush and sweeps up the kill, doing so much with this Azir.
He's making plays that continuously makes you feel like, why is this champion not banned? Why does he continuously get it? He's such a monster on it.
And during that play in particular, Karmine Corp really using all of the resources they had to them. Double stopwatch popped. That meant that Exakick couldn't then set up for the right of the Arcane. Couldn't set up for the Feather Pull even then. And Karmine Corp seriously taking a big fight in this early game.
And importantly as well, Cabochard just got the first turret for himself down towards that bot side, picked up all the plating, got the hull breaker. So even on your side lanes, you're faltering now. You can't win in the skirmishes. Your Sion doesn't hold up against the Gnar any longer. K-Corp, they feel so good about themselves currently.
And to think, this team was down 0-2, not even just back in the semi-finals. 0-2 versus Vitality B, which I had predicted would make it to the finals.
I predicted they would win.
I predicted they'd make it to at least those finals. I mean, community sentiment, at least on the broadcast, was very much against Karmine Corp. We thought, you know what, they've got too many issues to deal with. They're not playing cleanly, but they've continued to impress, continued to adapt, and they continue to take fights.
Oh, Cabo does land the Gnar off, and that's going to be DOS going down here. They're going to try and trade this one back, though. Cabo has to flash, as Exakick is doing some decent work. Plates have fallen down, so that tower is not long for this world. Now, can you make this one stick, LDLC? They're going to try and go for it. They have to try and make this one work. They don't land the Q, but they do land the kick. Hantera trying to run away off this one as Ragner is just tanking up the tower. Exakick will pick up one. They will get Yike on the other, and that's 2 quick kills going over the side of LDLC.
That is a huge play. That's a huge play. It gets the hull breaker off the map for a bit. It gets some gold into Exakick, and we know what Xayah can do when you have relevant gold. It just stops against some of the bleeding which Karmine Corp have induced in LDLC's early game. They've been struggling to make plays. This one's very important to break the momentum.
SAKEN, he's going to find himself
Blast
Actually, you know what? DOS will give him the way. He'll just sit around and go, you know what, mate? No problem at all. Pay your bus fare.
Yeah, but and even then, LDLC, they were so good at shutting down the play on the opposite end of the map because SAKEN, he was pushing on that tier 2 turret. Eika still had to teleport, just expanded it to use it down there instead. The teleport from SAKEN is not that far ahead on the cooldown either. So really from LDLC, I feel like they put a nice bandage on an early game that was running away from them.
And we got Riftail turning up now. 2,000 gold in favor of Karmine Corp. They also have 2 dragons, with that third one spawning in a minute 30. There's not really a position here for LDLC to contest onto this Rift Herald, so they're going to have to give up Shelly too. As I say that, here we go. Tokyo Drift coming in. 113 will get locked up and burst out. That is Eika. That is the glass cannon. So yes, you get the kill on the Shelly, but you can't collect.
Oh, sucks not using the ultimate there either, but he wanted to secure Shelly before he finally went down with it, and now the eye, it'll just not be picked up. Cabo, he walks forward.
He walks forward and he gets deleted. Exakick picks up that one, and Karmine Corp again are just walking too far forward.
So to answer your earlier statement, apparently Cabochard, very important. He got hit by the CC, he got blown up.
And this is again the combo. It's the not quite Ziggs Leona. You might be more familiar with that one, but the Xerath does so much damage when someone makes sure that all those pesky skill shots are basically point and click. CC, ulting in, airborne, dead, 113. Had to pull that ult early, but just didn't understand the threat he was under.
And this has been the story of Cabo as well, because despite how good he's been when he's looking super good, he can't help himself but overstep a little bit.
Cabo give, Cabo take away.
Exactly.
And this is the big thing now. This is for LDLC. They're starting to build a bit of momentum. It was a 2,000 gold lead, so a 1,000 gold lead. They deny the Rift Herald. They now got a little bit of extra gold, so they can come back into this dragon fight in 13 seconds.
And what that extra gold injection has meant is that actually now you have a hull breaker on the Sion. That evens up that side lane, at least in terms of the ability to clear through those waves and yada yada. Also gets you to item breakpoints on your mid and your AD carry. Those are the 2 people that are playing around the range advantage and really being the backbone of your fights. LDLC going towards the dragon. They start up on it. They have positioning.
Yeah, but I don't think they should go for it. Yes, 1-on-3 can go for steal, but Cabochard, he's on the top side. There's 5 members of LDLC. You don't want to overstep this one. I think you just forfeit the objective. You keep the pressure up, but you play for the turrets instead on the top side, and that's exactly what they're doing.
They did the scenic view. They took the scenic shot and just said, "Oh, look, there's a dragon going down." Didn't do anything about it. They took in the sights.
It was there.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like just getting 100% confirmation. I know we get a global announcement that the dragon has been taken nowadays, but you know, just in
remember
case,
you have
just
to time
in case.
it. 5 minute in chat, time it, guys.
I missed those.
How much gold did it give you again back then?
It was scaled. It's scaled. It was like, we didn't have it back in my day, as the resident boomer of the group comes in. But again, this is really, really good momentum from LDLC. We talked about how we wanted to see big players step up, and I do believe that Ragner and Eika have just been fantastic so far at getting back, because again, Karmine had all the options.
Good guy, Ragner there, also holding the way for his AD carry, getting the gold into the right places.
Well, you can see that Exakick is a level up on Rekkles, despite Rekkles being the one facilitated in the early game, and despite it was Exakick who was making rotations. So you can really see where LDLC want to put those eggs in the basket, as we do say. But I also feel like it just speaks to the strength of LDLC. You can never count it out. Even if they fall behind in the early game, they find ways to remain competitive, and we've seen it so many times, and we'll continue to see it.
This is the duality, though, of getting that hull breaker for Ragner right now. He wants to be with his team because that's their big engage as well, but he can't really do anything against the Gnar, so he's kind of not getting benefit from either side.
But in what he's doing with that is allowing Xerath to play through side lanes a lot easier, because Xerath is not a side lane specialist. Talked a little bit about the Azir in previous games as well, but Xerath needs other people shadowing, needs to be really just forcing you to respond under that tower, and Exakick not in a great spot himself. You can imagine if that extra Q landed, potential kill threat coming through, but Exakick get away with it for now.
We come back in, 19 minutes, just underneath it. A 1,500 gold lead coming in for Karmine Corp. Remember, they are the ones... Cabo! Oh, okay. Just going to burn Exakick's ultimate back away, but again, Karmine Corp are the ones in the ascendancy. They are 2-1 up. They are one Nexus explosion away from a 3-peat of Amazon EU Masters titles.
Yeah, really good bait there from Capo as well. His ultimate has a slower cooldown, or faster cooldown rather, than the likes of Exakick does, and it does allow some pressure on him. You can try and burn his flash now if you want to, but it looks like from the side of K-Corp, they're just going to be going for the reset timers. They're going to be giving blue buff over to SAKEN, so he can excel his pressure in a side lane. And really, when they start getting this shot, that's why we want to see them group up again with the likes of 1-3 to really see if you can capitalize on Eika and Xerath being so far forward, because it goes back to what Alex was just talking about. He always needs shadowing. He's so immobile. You catch him off guard, he'll just die.
Which is why the play on the top lane, the Herald, meant so much to LDLC, because it meant that if they were grouping up, it wasn't grouping up with a significant gold disadvantage. It wasn't grouping up while Karmine Corp still were kind of controlling where the plays were being made. LDLC managed to, again, just control things a little more. Not that the job's done, it is very far from done. But at least they stabilized in an area of the game which was not looking great for them.
Oh, 1-1-3 finds himself a catch. As we can see, Dom's going back in. They turn off the tower. They get the flash in. As they're going to see now, they can't turn it off for any more longer, but they'll take it down so it cannot do any more damage. You do have Ragner coming in. The right of the Arcane is going to do a lot of damage on the backside of this. You have the Solar Flare coming in, but Ragnar's all on his lonesome. He will take down Hantera, but SAKEN's got a little bit too far forward. He's almost taken down. He will eventually fall from Ragnar's zombie. Eika trying to do work here on the backside, and what started from literally nothing, Cabochard goes too far forward, and Eika cleans it up. It's a bloodbath, and it's 4 for 4.
What a random fight. It's over a tower that falls so early into it, and we have potentially talked about Karmine Corp just taking fights when they see them, and if you do get ahead in this game, you know how much it means to shut LDLC away from a very structured, slower game with their range advantage. But this felt very messy.
It also just goes back to what we just talked about. They burned the ultimate of Exakick, so if you commit now, you know he's going to have to burn all his summoners. And it really just comes down to Yike, who's getting way too over-aggressive. You really have no need to dash forward here. You're under the tower against the Volibear, and there you have it. Exakick forced to use all his summoner spells in the beginning. Ragnar then finding access to the backline with an immense damage right after the Arcane comes through, and that's really why you can see all this damage laid down. But it is still very messy in the end, and SAKEN, despite finding the likes of Exakick, he'll have to give his life for it.
Also, when you're in these kind of fights, Hullbreaker rarely gives you that much value. He was actually far enough away there, I believe, to actually get Hullbreaker value in the backline. Manages to dive right into the back of it. I mean, Xerath doesn't physically have to be there, but still puts in the extra damage. And imagine if that had happened, if LDLC were actually slightly more even in gold. Karmine Corp playing with fire a little.
But we might just get it again. There's 13 seconds to this Drake. That could be soul point for Karmine Corp.
It could be. It's going to be a second Drake for LDLC. We'll see what they want to go for. Look at all the different summoners not available for either side. Cabochard does have his flash. You will see SAKEN trying to look for that big sweep once more. You can see him hunting, sniffing around, trying to find something. He's got to be careful, though, because if he gets caught out himself, he is a dead man. He still has his Banshee's Veil. As we go in, the right of Arcane going to force Rekkles outside of the pit. It's all a bit separated from Karmine Corp, and they will secure it. That's going to be sole point, but Cabo tries to jump on the backside of this one here, and now the fight can really go in favor of LDLC. Eika is still doing work here on the backside. You can see Karmine Corp, they're in two minds. Do we fight? Do we run? At the end of the day, they do nothing. An indecision is a decision in itself.
And it is really messy again. Cabo hops out of the pit, out of the way where he can threaten the backline. Eika gets to free fire for most of that fight. And even though Karmine Corp get themselves Soul Point, they lose themselves a Smite, they're going to lose themselves a tower. This could be actually a pretty bad play for them overall.
Oh yeah, I would have definitely agree. They lose map priority here. Finally having the mid lane open up as well allows LDLC to play way further out. They can get way more aggressive with their vision as well, get it into the enemy jungle. And once again, Alex, it goes back to what you just said. It's so damn messy. Even the Drake getting this re-engaged, you can see that Rekkles is picking this up with a nice time smite, but Cabochard and SAKEN is on the left side, 1-1-3 alone, and I think it's a really nice play from Hantera initially, but no one is in a position to capitalize, so when the fight finally extends, yes, there's long range on an Ezreal and an Azir, but it's not going to reach that.
No, and not when you're in that kind of position. Cabo and SAKEN stood outside the pit. I get that SAKEN was looking for the flank, but Ragner just taking them for a walk, getting himself into the fight, says, see ya, maybe if you can make it into the back end of the fight.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't the case there, and now, again, we were talking about the gold advantage. It used to be 2k, but then it was 1k, and now
it's 200.
Even. Pretty much even at this point of the game. We do have the Sunfire Aegis being picked up as well by Ragner, so he's going to be pretty decently tanky going into these fights. Has got himself a Bramble Vest as well to deal with that side lane threat. You can see now the Eika, the Azir, and the Xerath just kind of ping-pong ways, but they've started Baron. They will get caught out on this. So they can't go for it any further because they don't really have full vision control.
Yeah, but being on red side versus this comp that LDLC has means Baron retreats are very difficult. You got to try and hop over the wall against Xerath, who's poking with your magic resist reduced. You got to do that against all of his abilities there. And you got the Sion, who's got a great number of angles to go through the blue side jungle and ult straight into your team. Actually very difficult for Karmine Corp to safely start and retreat from Baron.
Luckily, in terms of mobility, they all have dashes. Like 1-1-3 is the only one who really has to blow something significant in the ultimate, but outside of that, they can allow themselves to go for a little creative plays like this. And it also just keeps LDLC in check. They'll also always have to be at the top of their toes, just being ready for a play to break out whenever from Karmine Corp, essentially, because that Baron, that goes down fast.
Actually, you know what? For the first time in this game, if you don't mind bringing up that minimap a little bit larger, we can see mid-wave pushed in for LDLC. Bot lane actually on Karmine Corp's side of the map. Only top lane going to be sorted out now. LDLC actually have a lot more breathing room than they've had at any other point during this game.
And the important thing as well is that, you know, you see the vision they've kind of garnered for themselves. They have a path to check. They have something that they can move forward with. As you can see right now with Yike, they're saying, look, we know that we have the vision here. We know we are safe to push to this point in the map.
Actually, you know, the last time we saw Xerath in this competition, I think it was LFLICKR who was playing it, but that ward in the middle of mid lane there, you can just see it on the edge of your screen, is really important to Xerath, because you start walking over that. Actually, if it just goes a little bit deeper, again, Rekkles, he's sat there taking so much damage. Suddenly, if Xerath is within shooting range, you're in so much threat.
It's a really tense game in between them, because it feels like whoever really gets caught can be, you know, the thrower essentially of this game. You know, you don't want to be that guy, and
That
you need to be respectful of him. Exactly.
Incredible.
Especially for LDLC, who's already a game down. At least from Karmine Corp, they have one more game to give. But for LDLC, it's all or nothing.
All or nothing is Exakick. Let's be a bit careful here. Cabochard will go aggressive. They won't get any roots down, but Hantera taking a lot of damage. SAKEN force off the backside. There's the right of the Arcane. They're going to try and land this poke down onto Rekkles. Doesn't really land onto anybody. 1-1-3 just jumps straight onto Ragner, and they kind of jump back out. Everyone's getting a little bit antsy, a little bit tentative, and you can see the damage from the Xayah is getting very significant.
It just feels like a stalemate, a little bit of a standoff in between them. It's just who's willing to push the trigger, who's the one who's going to go first. Even when they go for the engage, it's just neutralized immediately by 1-1-3.
And it is a stalemate, and it is a standoff. But I think about this, I think even if one straight skill shot hits from LDLC onto someone important, if that right of the Arcane connects with 2 shots or so, it's very, very difficult. Coming up to this dragon now, though.
Just about to say, 40 seconds to spawn. We have pretty much summoners across the board. We're just waiting on Doss's flash, which I believe should be coming up just after it, but of course he has Hex flash as well. Now, Mera, where are we looking at right now? Because Cabochard, he's going to be sitting on that Mega for a little bit. Hantera, I'm going to try and jump into Ragner. They could maybe burn a flash off of him right here. Don't know if they're going to be committing a lot to this to try and burn him down. He's very tanky.
He has a hull breaker.
I was going to say he has a hull breaker, and now they can fully commit on the Cabochard, who gets kicked back. He has to flash back over the wall. They tried to get the feathers to fly. You've used so much here as Karmine, and you've gained nothing.
And Ragnar has a TP. Cabo has that too. Both these top laners going to come back into it, but Karmine Corp, I respect the attempt, but this is a tanky hull breaker Sion. They don't win that first engagement.
Yeah, the ultimate's a solo cooldown as well. Ragnar almost have it. Cabochard is coming back up as well. They're both coming in with their teleports, and this might just be a flip for that Drake.
Here we go. They're going to put down some poke. 1-1-3.
God,
Almost dead. He's gone, and that's going to be the dragon. He got it before he died. They get the soul. He died and got the dragon. What an absolute play from him. And Cabo can get onto this backside now. Rekkles is free hitting. SAKEN is huge. And Karmine Corp, they might have just done it. SAKEN, they have gotten the triple kill. It's Exakick versus the world. He can maybe get down Cabo, but no one else should fall. And that is huge for Karmine.
Karmine Corp, they try at first, pick off the one member. That doesn't work, but when everyone is on the board, find themselves a huge fight, get themselves that soul, moving over towards that Baron, and Karmine Corp, out of what seemingly felt like a very difficult situation, find a huge win.
This is going to be the fight everyone is going to be looking back at. Volibear picking up with what I would assume would be the E after he died as well. Then the fight coming through with multiple members, finding montage plays. Yike, 5 seconds for him to spawn. 113, still around the vicinity. This should just be Baron gone as well.
And how the heck does that happen? With no one dying from Karmine Corp. You see Exakick alive at the end of it. You see Eika free hitting throughout so much of this, and so much went on. I'm looking at this, and it's just so difficult.
It is just the E. It's a misfire. It's the E. I can't believe it. That's incredible in an European Masters Finals. It always feels like when it matters the most, that's where we start messing up. That's where you start seeing the nerves. And for moments like this to happen right now, absolutely incredible.
Sans interview just before this series, Exakick was talking about, yeah, I mean, it's hard playing on these kinds of stages. It's hard to play on this kind of stage with this kind of pressure, and it does mean that this extra factor which comes into it.
What a play from Karmine Corp right now. Again, you get the Baron, you get yourself back into the Ascendancy, 4,000 gold now ahead, and it looked like everything went wrong. You blew everything to kill Ragner. You didn't technically smite steal it, but it's a massive, massive mistake from Yike.
I don't think they're going to be worrying about technicalities at that point. I think they'll just take it.
Yeah, screw the technicalities at this point, and now Karmine Corp, they're pushing in 2 waves. You have the Azir coming in for the mid lane stacked up wave. Cabochard's just going to be pushing from the bottom lane. He's got that whole breaker to deal with. It's going to be difficult from the side of LDLC to punish this. There's still the range coming through from Rekkles as well if he wants to start sieging up. The same can be said for SAKEN. Slowly but surely, these turrets, they should just start falling.
And LDLC, they were really banking a lot of their wave clear. Baron stops you from doing that. It really hurts your opportunities to kind of stabilize this map again. And against that Mount Assault, you are a poke comp. You are outrange. Every time you go for those skill shots, if you don't land on cooldown over and over, that shield regens. One missed skill shot gives them an extra amount of HP, and it makes your job so hard to play through it. They're playing through burst, they're playing through lockdown onto a single target. That makes it very easy for Karmine Corp to see it coming.
Got a hell of a lot of damage. Rekkles going to be forced to use his own heals. The Rite of the Arcane comes out. They even get the Guardian out of Hantera as well. But that turret is but a sneeze away from being knocked over here by the big bad wolves that are Karmine Corp, even as Hantera just kind of pushing around. You still have a minute left on this Baron buff. They could honestly take mid and maybe even go for a little bit more.
But that's why it's so difficult to do. Like, the waves are synced up. Now they're desynced a little bit, but the members, they still have to deal with the poke coming through now from Karmine Corp, and they can't. That's why the mid lane inhibitor will now fall. They can then beeline it down towards the bot side. A mid lane wave, or bot lane wave rather, will be crashing now as well, and Cabo, he's going to push it in.
Getting ready with that Mega Gnar. Getting ready. What seems like the last attempt.
Here we go. They're going to look for something here. 113 had to use his ultimate in response to Ragner. He almost gets caught out, but they do catch out DOS. DOS goes golden. Cabochard is taking a lot of damage here. Yike goes onto the backside. The feathers go flying, and that's going to be Cabo dead. Now you can trade it back for your jungler. It's a 1-for-1 trade. DOS gets out with literally a sliver of HP. Exakick still very big, but as is Rekkles.
And Yike actually gets a kick there. And it was close. It was so close to getting that Ezreal into that backline. We saw what that Lee Sin can do. Skeens on Vitality B in that semi-finals held Karmine Corp under such large pressure in those late game fights, but it wasn't quite enough at this point, and Karmine Corp, they get away with it.
And it's going to be even more difficult to deal with now. Cabo has that teleport. He can continue down towards the bot side with the hull breakers and scoring in the super minions. But let's have a look at the replay once again. 113, I think the last 2 fights, he's been exceptional at just stopping Ragnar's engage by becoming immobilized. Once again, Cabochard, I think he dives too far forward here. Luckily for them, Yike is looking for the highlight play as well. Gets the Ezreal, but easy to get out with the Arcane Shift afterwards, and then the fight just kind of sealed at this point.
And, you know, for all the attention that has been put on Karmine Corp's players, 113 is a player which had a lot of criticism for a lot of volatile games, a lot of those early games going awry. But you know what? When he heads into those team fights, this guy has been exceptional. I do think Yike on the other side has also been exceptional. This has been a high-tier caliber clash in terms of those team fights later on into those games, with 113 making his mark and potentially walking towards a title.
1 minute until Elder Dragon spawns. You're seeing a little bit of pressure being put up onto this top side, as this is the only one with inhibitor left available for LDLC. You are starting to hit pretty critical item points. I go up to level 16, as is Ragner. DOS no longer with that stopwatch means he doesn't have the invulnerability. The base defense against the Supermarines has been left to Exakick as he starts to build up possibly even his final item.
But not only that, right, you got 40 seconds, then Elder Drake is spawned. If you get triple inhibitor before that objective comes around on the map, there's going to be so much pressure on LDLC. The last objective might not even be the Drake. You have double teleport.
Oh, they're going for Cabo. They're trying to just get him maybe up to above the exhaust point, but they've invested quite a lot here. DOS is going to have to try and find his way out of this. He flashes, but is followed immediately by Cabo, and now you've lost your wards and your engage. You tried to get away the Mega Gnar, but I just don't think it was worth it.
And it's 10 seconds till that Elder. Karmine Corp, they've got themselves a huge advantage to pile on top of what they already had. Cabo sticking towards this bot lane again.
They're going to keep pushing, keep fishing right now. Rekkles going to start off that dragon with 113 and SAKEN. Yike, you need to play hero here, but you got a lot of big bosses waiting for you. I don't think they're going to allow you anywhere near this pit. He's already down below half HP. Right, the arcane goes in. Can he get the steal? He cannot. Oh! And that feels like the final nail in the coffin. Eika will not survive. SAKEN gets the sweep back as Exakick tries to keep him and his team alive. Ragner will go down as the dragon wars, and SAKEN can still stay alive. I think they've done it.
That's it. There's got to be the Nexus. Crown them 3 times over.
This is it. A dynasty within the ERLs. Karmine Corp say to LDLC, you are just another brick in the wall, and that wall is blue as Karmine Corp become the first ever 3P champions.
3 in a row. That's absolutely crazy to think about at this point in the ERL system. We've always had so many teams show up from different regions, but LFL this year, once again, they just set it up.
And in his first season in the ERLs, I guess I've been told not to toss there very quickly by my producer, so gonna go back there. Thank you, Scroller, for going back. But sorry, it's all very exciting. We're all very, very excited to come in here, but what a time, and what oh, there we go. We can get the toss coming in now. Thank you so much, producer. In his first season in the ERLs, Rekkles helps Karmine Corp achieve the historical 3-peat, and Medic is now joined by the man himself. Take it away.
You very much, Asheen. Rekkles, congratulations to kick things off. A victory at the EU Masters, the 3rd in a row for Karmine Corp. It felt very much like you came into today as underdogs and then really turned things around after game 1. What was the shift that happened for Karmine Corp in this series?
I think throughout the year, actually, we've showcased a lot of strength in tough moments. And for a team like LDLC, that hasn't been the case yet. So going into today's series, we knew that if we managed to win one game, just one game, that would already be kind of weird for them and be in a situation we've already been. So I think we just had we had a lot of mental strength coming into today's series. And I think actually the best of 5 against Vitality helped a lot with this. Starting LFL spring on a poor note helped a lot with this, and losing LFL playoffs also helped with this. So all of the, difficulties throughout the year has really helped us become the team we are. And I think today we could showcase the best version of ourselves, be really strong mentally, and I'm so proud of the guys. I think there were so many times this year we could have given up, and I'm happy we never did. I'm so happy for this.
Yeah, huge congratulations. So many challenges you have all gone through as a team. And I actually want to bring that back to you as an individual as well, because 2021 wasn't the stellar year that we come to expect from you, and perhaps not the caliber that you would expect from yourself. And coming into 2022, you did have those struggles with Karmine Corp. You did have those difficulties. How does it feel for you to overcome those and be able to claim a title, even if it is only at the EU Masters level?
Honestly, it's just such a relief. I feel like a year like 2021 makes you doubt yourself. In my case, it really made me doubt myself. So I kind of needed this, I think, to prove to myself that I'm still good enough. I'm just really happy that we managed to overcome all of these difficulties throughout the year. I think, like there were so many things that went sideways, and so many times we could have given up, and we just never did. I feel like it really gives me like how would you say, like a confirmation that I still got it in a way. And sure, it's just UMasters, but these players are not bad, and these teams are not bad. So to me, it's not like that. I feel like this is another title, just like any other of them. So I'm really happy to just be back on top. I guess it's been a while now for me. I haven't played a final since 2020, and I haven't won anything since 2018 actually. So it feels good to be back.
Yeah, it feels good to have you back at the top as well. Just going to dive a tiny bit deeper on that. You say that as a team you've come through a lot this year, and you, as obviously personally, have come through a lot as well. Is there a specific player on the team or a specific thing that you guys have that is allowing you to overcome those difficulties? Because so often we see teams crumble when they do encounter some of the challenges that you've managed to work through.
I would say, for me, the one that enabled me, at least, I can only speak for myself, the one that enabled me throughout the year the most was actually 113, or Boom, as we call him. He came to me many times asking for, I guess, advice on what we should be doing as a team, and I really feel like that enabled me to share my point of view on how I want this team to be. And yeah, it's cool to see from someone that's 17 to have that kind of maturity and awareness, I guess, to enable me in that way. So from a personal note, I feel really grateful to him because I really feel like he enabled me. But honestly, everyone did their fair share. Like, I think Hantera improved so much when I started playing with him. Yeah, it was much worse than he is now. I think now he's really good, and he tries really hard every day. And SAKEN and Cabo, don't even have to mention, they are both stellar players, always have been. So I think everyone did their fair share, and it's just nice to finally get rewarded for it. I guess it's been a really long year. Like, I think we played over 50 games actually so far this year competitively, which is about a whole year of play normally. So I feel so proud of the guys for having, as I mentioned, like the mental strength to pull this through and to keep believing in the project. And yeah, it's great to be here today.
Yeah, it's incredible to see you all here today. And before we round out and go to a short break, I want to say you've been quite outspoken about sticking with the project at Karmine Corp and how much you are enjoying being part of this team. Is there anything you want to say to the blue wall out there before we conclude for the day about what being part of this victory means for you?
Well, I guess I just want to say thanks for believing in me. I feel like after last year, it's easy to have a lot of doubts, as I mentioned, not only for myself, but towards me as well, from a fan perspective, from team perspectives, from the guys, doing the rosters and stuff. So the fact that I even got this opportunity in the first place is something I'm really grateful for. And then it's always been so supportive from all the fans. I feel like we had so many bad moments this year, actually. One example could be, for example, like the first game against X7, where we got perfect gamed. And it so easily then could have been that everyone turns on us, all the fans, each other, like the players on each other, and it just never was the case. So I feel like it's just, it's a great project to be a part of, and I'm super happy for this opportunity. I feel like it's a great place for me to reestablish myself as a player. I think I play a lot of champs this year that I didn't play before, and I'm much more open just in general to improving and becoming better, I guess. And on a personal note, I think it's been actually my biggest growth year so far. So I'm just really happy for this chance, this opportunity to be a part of this project.
It's great to hear. Thank you so much for talking to us, Rekkles. Go celebrate with the rest of your team. Congratulations again on the win. We'll be right back after this with the end of the day. Thank you again, Rekkles. Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters, where Karmine Corp cement their dynasty in Europe with their 3rd consecutive EU Masters title. Wouldn't be a European final unless we said dynasty at least once.
Legacy?
I got it in. Legacy as well.
Kings.
Kings behind us.
Good one. Good one. Great stuff by Karmine Corp, and I will give credit to you, Trouble. You were the only person on the desk of the two of you that predicted Karmine Corp to win. You did say 3-2, but it was pretty close in the end
I
anyway.
did fight at the start of the day with you, Rob, to prove that whoever goes to the finals versus Karmine Corp will lose 100%. So for anyone that's going to face them further on in the next EU Masters, make sure you beat them before the finals, guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the big thing here was like seeing that individual performance step up, and I think that was what we kind of talked about at the start of the day was, look, if we can actually see Karmine Corp with, SAKEN coming out being an absolute monster in the mid lane, which we saw, if we can get Cabochard making these unbelievable plays, which we also saw, that was going to be the big difference maker for me. And we got to see pretty much across the board that not only was it the solo lanes, but across the board, Karmine Corp stepped up to the mark.
And you heard Rekkles talking about it. Like you said, we are so good in pressure situations. Like, he didn't think LDLC had been challenged to the same degree. Of course, LDLC, they won the LFL finals. They've been in big matches, but they've never been backs against the wall in the same way that Karmine Corp had to be in the LFL finals, where they lost, obviously, or in the LFL, and then against Vitality B last week.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, that was actually a conversation himself and Trouble had backstage, was like, look, you look at players like Yike, who I don't think had a bad series, but certainly you could see him second-guessing himself. And when it's his first Amazon EU Masters, his first time in the finals, you could kind of see that those stage nerves were getting to him, where he wasn't going for the cross-map plays as much as he used to. He wasn't kind of interacting in the same ways we saw across the map. When you look at players like SAKEN that you're just seeing there popping off in the Azir, Rekkles, who's been there countless times, and you look at Cabochard as well, a veteran who's been overperforming so much in this Amazon EU Masters, it's no surprise that that veterancy and that experience has lent itself to their success today.
And honestly, I'm just going to take the veterancy and the experience and say that SAKEN has been an absolute freaking monster this entire tournament. I think for me personally, and I think for a lot of other people, he's definitely the MVP coming to this stage. I feel like he pulled them out of a hole versus Vitality B. I feel like his plays today on the Azir in particular were absolutely insane. And for a guy who's been the OG, who's made it into EU LCS, fallen back down, risen back up, won the back-to-back, stayed through 3 iterations of a roster and still reigned true. I feel like being able to pull these performances when it really matters, when your team is 0-2 down in the semis, is just impeccable.
Yeah, especially when you look at like the attention that was given towards Cabochard, right? A lot of people coming in today were like, oh, well, Cabo's the focus for Karmine Corp. But you actually looked was Cabo getting the attention from LDLC, and suddenly it only really relies on like Rekkles and SAKEN to step up, but SAKEN certainly stepped up tenfold than what was ever required of him, both in the semi-finals and today as well. It just felt like he really came into his own.
And of course, on the other side of the coin, LDLC struggled to really find purchase in the series. They did win game 1, but after that, Karmine Corp just seemed to have their number at every possible opportunity. I'm sure it's not farewell to all of these players, but it is perhaps more of a whimper than the explosion that LDLC were hoping to end the spring split on.
Yeah, it feels kind of bittersweet at this point, right? Especially coming in as a tournament favorite, completely undefeated up to this point, getting the first win as well here in the series. It kind of must feel a little bit sour, but honestly, with these sort of performances, I think it's going to be, for a lot of them, farewell to maybe a higher up stage.
Yeah, they should have learned from G2 and just stopped at 12. 13 was just the wrong number to go to. Because, yeah, I agree with Trouble here. Like, it just felt like once they kind of got to a point where, even in game 2, they had a messy early game. They kind of got to come back in the mid game, then they threw it. Then you see game 3 not really go their way. It just felt like they got very deflated as the series went on. And then in game 4, it just felt very much controlled by Karmine Corp for a lot of it. So I certainly think coming into today, after today, that a lot of these players have still got very bright futures. Like, I'm still looking at Yike as a top contender for a lot of spots, but I certainly think that there is still growing room, as you can see.
I totally agree with you, but c'est tout. That is all.
C'est fini?
It's the
Nous
Karmine Corp
sommes finis. It is the LFL Grand Spring... Oh, no, wait, sorry. That's all from us at the Amazon European Masters spring season. Congratulations once again to the back-to-back-to-back champions, Karmine Corp. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you at MSI starting on Tuesday. Have a good night. À bientôt.
Allez, le bleu!
Today, we've arrived at the knockout stage of the Amazon European Masters, where 8 teams are fighting fighting for the trophy.
Elder Dragon secured, and the birds start flying through, wings flared, and they are going to wipe the fight on top of it all.
I think Rogue is a bit of a cheese team, honestly. Like, they're playing the most random stuff. It's like, you know, Bisons in groups.
They're going to use the stealth level 1. Some cheese for the rats.
Fury's going to have to be on it. He gets hit by the charm. He's going down. Fury! Simnavac has used the so much at the moment, and it actually brought out Fury's ultimate.
The Temper Fate is gone. Rekkles is separated. And Rekkles is assassinated. This is a 4v5 right now in favor of Fnatic, who got dislikes just trying to end the game. Shigenda goes for TP Jackal, denying the recall. But Diplex takes Golden, keeps himself safe. And Vitality take 2. The LFL will have 3 teams in the semi-finals as Vitality B get 3 games in the series. They want the Penta for Jeskler, and they'll get it as well.
You can see how we go next.
No, don't show this. No!
I love how he does like a flip. He's just like, I'm going out with style.
Unless they're still looking, a go rogue, they're aggressive.
On to 2, that's huge. It's like dancing around trying to get damage down. This is all about LDLC exiting in the backline, using the money he's been given. LDLC still looking for the test. The barrier goes down to Teleport coming through. Who's going to be on the action? Stolen fight in like LDLC. Take the barrier, move forward and try and take the fight. They're cutting through Rogue on the retreat.
Alright, let's do it then.
Dragon low, Cabochard on the Elder. Jeskler punching out. SAKEN low HP. Schemes will fall. K-Corp. For real. Shigenda actually goes further forward. And boom! Shigenda! The minions blocking Jeskler, and he's the only damage source. Oh my god, what a bullet time!
Let the LFL shout out proud, as it will be K-Corp against LDLC after the first ever reverse sweep.
They can't really make it happen. Dos goes a little bit too far forward. Cabochard into the wall. An explosive cast is perfect to stop the bullet time. We're going to see them try and jump on the SAKEN, but SAKEN is just too big. Triple kill for SAKEN. SAKEN is huge. And Karmine Corp, they might have just done it. As Karmine Corp become the first ever 3P champions.
Na miejscu, Zinniwa, ty poradzi sobie z midlane, teraz niebieska gaming, bardzo dobry target, losu kajtuje, ale no!
It's just chaos all over the map. Right? X7 are ahead of the play. Goodbye, dude.
Now Shikari's in trouble, he's gonna try and find his way away for the Shadow Surge! And the Rocky just goes wide, but a final auto secures it anyway!